The cold wind howled around Ethan's cabin, cutting through the tall, snow-laden pines like icy knives. He sat by the small fireplace, staring at the flickering flames, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling that had settled in his chest all evening. This planet, remote and uncharted, had always been quiet, almost too quiet. But tonight, the silence felt heavy, like it was hiding something. Or someone. A sudden crack echoed outside, and froze. His heart skipped a beat. He grabbed the flashlight from the table and cautiously stepped onto the porch. The snow crunched under his boots as he scanned the darkness. Nothing moved. Just the endless forest, bathed in a ghostly blue glow from the twin moons above. Then he saw it. Something unusual, lying behind his cabin, half covered in snow. At first, he thought it was a deer or some small creature, but the shape was wrong. Human? No, not human. Ethan's mind raced as he approached, his flashlight trembling in his hand. The figure was small, delicate, and fragile, but the colors of its skin made him stop in his tracks. She was glowing softly, like a living lantern. Her skin shimmered with shades of violet and silver. Light seemed to dance across her body, tracing patterns Ethan had never seen before. Her hair floated slightly above her head, as if weightless, catching the cold light in a strange, mesmerizing way. Her eyes were closed, but even in unconsciousness, they radiated intelligence and something else he couldn't name. Ethan's instincts screamed at him to stay back. Fugitives were rare, and this planet was dangerous. But something about her presence pulled him closer. He knelt in the snow, brushing it gently from her arms and face. She shivered, making a faint sound, like a whisper carried on the wind. What are you?" he whispered to himself, fear and awe battling in his mind. He looked around. The forest was silent again, but that feeling of being watched returned, stronger this time. Something or someone was out there, beyond the trees. Ethan's pulse quickened. Whoever or whatever she was, she didn't belong here. And he had no idea if helping her would bring salvation or danger. Her breathing was shallow but steady. Ethan made a quick decision. He lifted her carefully into his arms. She was lighter than he expected, almost weightless. The glow of her skin lit up his cabin's porch as he carried her inside, leaving a trail in the snow behind them. Inside, he laid her on the small bed. She stirred again, opening her eyes just a fraction. Her gaze met his, and Ethan felt it like a shock. Her eyes were not like human eyes, they were larger, shimmering with multiple colors, reflecting every flicker of light in the room. In that gaze he saw fear, confusion, and a silent plea. Ethan sat beside her, heart pounding. "It's okay. You're safe here," he said softly. The words sounded hollow, even to him. How could he make her safe when he didn't even know what she was, or what was chasing her? Suddenly, a sharp sound outside the cabin made him spin around. Snow crunched against the wooden walls. Someone or something was out there. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. He didn't know if they were hunters, predators, or just the wind playing tricks. All he knew was that time was running out. She moved slightly in his direction, her fingers brushing his arm, and for a moment, Ethan understood something. This was not a random encounter. She had chosen unknowingly to trust him. And that trust could cost him everything. Ethan's eyes flicked to the glowing device she clutched in her hand. Strange symbols glimmered faintly across its surface, pulsing with the same light as her skin. Whatever this device was, it was important. And whatever had made her run, it was close. The wind outside grew louder, carrying with it a feeling of impending doom. Ethan knew his quiet life in the cabin was over. By dawn, nothing would be the same. He had no idea what awaited him outside, or what secrets this mysterious alien held. But one thing was certain, he had just become part of something far bigger, and far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. and the forest outside watched silently. Waiting for the first move to be made, the cabin was quiet, except for the faint crackle of the fireplace. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the alien lying before him. She was still, but her chest rose and fell in soft rhythmic breaths. Her glowing skin filled the room with an otherworldly light, casting long shadows on the walls. Ethan had never seen anything like her. Her beauty was alien, yet strangely familiar, as if he had glimpsed it in a dream he could never remember. Suddenly, her eyes fluttered open. They were large, luminous, and filled with colors Ethan had no names for. He froze. For a moment, she simply stared at him, and he felt as if she could see every thought inside his mind. A shiver ran down his spine. Then, slowly she sat up, her movements graceful and careful, as if every action was a dance. Ethan swallowed hard. Are you hurt?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. She tilted her head, studying him. Then she reached out a hand and touched his arm. To his surprise, it was warm, yet it sent a strange tingling sensation through him. She didn't speak. Instead, she closed her eyes and seemed to send a thought directly into his mind. "Danger, they will come." Ethan's heart jumped. Telepathy? He had read about it in science journals, but he had never witnessed it firsthand. She was trying to tell him something, warning him, but how could he understand her fully? As if to explain, she lifted her hand, and a faint glow emanated from her fingertips. It danced in the air, forming shapes that looked like symbols, like a language written in light. Ethan leaned closer, fascinated and terrified. Every shape seemed to pulse with meaning, but he could not decipher it. One thing was clear: whatever she was running from, it was close. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the cabin walls. The sense of being watched returned, stronger this time. Ethan glanced toward the windows. The forest beyond was dark, but he could feel movement in the shadows, faint shapes slipping between the trees. Whoever or whatever was out there, it knew she was here. She noticed his gaze and quickly pulled from beneath her robe a small device. It was glowing faintly, a strange combination of metal and crystal, covered in tiny patterns that seemed alive. She held it close, as if it were a lifeline, and stared at Ethan with wide, fearful eyes. Then she pointed toward the door and made a sharp motion with her hand, clearly indicating the threat outside. Ethan felt a chill. "You mean they're here?" he whispered. She nodded once, quickly. Then she did something even stranger. She touched the device, and a soft hum filled the room. The air shimmered slightly, as if reality itself had grown thinner. Ethan blinked, unsure if he was seeing things. The alien's glow intensified, her entire body now radiating light, illuminating the corners of the cabin that had been hidden in shadow. Ethan realized one thing: she was not just beautiful, she was powerful. And that power was exactly why she was in danger. She finally spoke, though the sound was like nothing Ethan had heard before. Musical, high-pitched, and layered with subtle tones that made his chest vibrate. He couldn't understand the words, but the emotion was clear: fear, urgency, and trust. She wanted him to help, and yet he could feel her uncertainty, as if she were testing whether he could be trusted at all. Ethan took a deep breath. "I'll help you. Whatever it is, I'll help." His voice was steady, but his mind raced. Who were the hunters outside? What was she running from? And what exactly could she do with that device she clutched so tightly? For a moment, she studied him, her glowing eyes piercing through his very thoughts. Then, slowly she relaxed and allowed herself to lean against him slightly. It was a gesture of trust, but also a warning. Helping her meant danger was coming soon, and fast. Ethan knew he had no choice. The quiet life he had built in the cabin was over. He was now part of something far bigger, a mystery that was alive, glowing, and deadly. And outside the walls of his cabin, the forest seemed to whisper, warning him. They were coming. and there was no turning back. The first rays of dawn barely touched the snow-covered landscape, but the quiet of the morning was already broken. Outside the cabin, shadows moved among the trees, fast, precise, and unnatural. Ethan had just finished helping the alien to her feet when the first warning came. A sharp, metallic clang against the cabin wall. Ethan's heart raced. Whoever or whatever was out there, they were close. He glanced at her. Her glowing skin flickered nervously as she scanned the surroundings. The device she held hummed louder now, pulsating like a warning beacon. "They know we're here," Ethan whispered. She didn't answer with words. Instead, her eyes widened and she gestured toward the forest. Then, with a sudden burst of speed, she darted to the window, vanishing almost like a shadow. Ethan felt panic rise. He had no idea what she could do, but instinct told him to follow. He leapt over the cabin threshold, snow crunching underfoot, and caught a glimpse of her weaving through the trees. She moved with a grace that defied gravity, leaving a faint trail of shimmering light behind her. Ethan ran, struggling to keep up, slipping in the deep snow. But he couldn't stop. Something told him that if he fell behind, they might never survive this chase. A whistle pierced the air, a sharp, high-pitched sound, and suddenly, figures emerged from the tree line. They were tall, armored, and completely alien. Their eyes glowed red, and they moved silently, almost floating over the snow. Ethan froze for a heartbeat. Hunters, the kind who never missed. The alien saw them and didn't hesitate. She touched the device again, and the air around her shimmered violently. A wave of light shot forward, creating a blinding barrier between them and the hunters. Ethan shielded his eyes, feeling the warmth of her power wash over him. The hunters recoiled, but only for a moment. They were relentless. Ethan grabbed her arm. "We have to move now," he shouted, his voice cracking with fear. They ran through the forest, the alien guiding him through hidden paths he had never noticed. Her ability to manipulate the light made the trees and snow bend and twist around them, confusing the hunters. Ethan couldn't believe what he was seeing. She was bending reality just to protect them. Suddenly, one hunter broke through a tree barrier, its long, spindly arms reaching for them. Ethan pushed the alien out of the way, barely dodging a swipe that could have ended him instantly. The alien's eyes glowed brighter, and in a single motion, she extended her hands, sending a wave of energy that threw the hunter backward, crashing into a tree. Ethan stumbled, gasping for breath. You're incredible," he panted. She didn't answer. Instead, she kept running, leading him toward a clearing. And there it was, the strange, abandoned spacecraft she had shown him in visions, the one hidden beneath the snow. Its hull was half buried, but its door was open, as if waiting for them. They dove inside, slamming the door shut behind them. Ethan pressed his back against the cold metal, trying to calm his racing heart. The alien touched the device again, and the hum grew louder. The spacecraft systems flickered to life, lights glowing faintly inside the cabin. Ethan realized that this ship wasn't just a hiding place, it was a weapon, a fortress, and maybe the key to survival. Outside, the hunters pounded against the hull. Their glowing eyes pierced the walls, their voices low and menacing. The alien's glow intensified, and Ethan felt a surge of hope. She wasn't just a fugitive, she was a force to be reckoned with. For the first time, Ethan understood the truth. Whatever danger had brought her here, it wasn't something he could outrun. It was something he had to face. And together, with her power and the strange ship, they might just stand a chance. The hunter's pounding grew louder, more furious. Ethan looked at her, and she looked back, eyes full of determination and unspoken trust. "Ready?" he asked. She nodded once, and with that, the chase was far from over. It had only just begun. The spacecraft hummed softly, its systems awakening like a giant slumbering creature. Ethan leaned against the cold metal wall, still trying to catch his breath. Outside, the pounding from the hunters continued, But inside, the alien moved with calm precision. She didn't speak, but her glowing eyes scanned the control panels, her fingers brushing across the strange symbols that lit up beneath her touch. Ethan watched, fascinated and wary. I don't even know your name," he said finally. She tilted her head, a faint smile touching her lips. Then she touched a part of the device she carried, and a holographic projection sprang to life in the center of the cabin. Ethan's eyes widened. The light formed maps, symbols, and images he could barely understand. Yet somehow he felt the meaning behind them. She was a fugitive, fleeing from an empire that ruled far beyond this planet. Her people were hunted, enslaved, or worse, simply erased. And the device she held was not just a tool, it was a key, a map to a hidden sanctuary where her kind could be safe. Ethan swallowed hard. "You're running from them?" he asked, voice shaking. She nodded, her eyes flicking toward him with a mixture of fear and trust. Then, in a gesture he could not fully understand, she touched his hand. A warmth spread from her fingers into his arm, and for a moment, Ethan could sense her memories, not fully, but flashes. A city of light, a terrifying army, a night of fire and chaos. The images were brief, but they were enough. "They're relentless," Ethan said, his jaw tightening. "They won't stop until they get you." Her gaze softened, almost as if acknowledging his words. Then she pointed at the holographic map. Ethan studied it carefully. It showed a route through dangerous terrain, across uncharted regions of the planet, toward a place marked with symbols that pulsed like her own glowing skin. He realized something important. She trusted him. And that trust was rare, precious, and dangerous. One wrong move, and they could both die. The spacecraft's hull shuddered suddenly, and Ethan spun around. The hunters had found them. Their glowing eyes pressed against the windows, and a low, menacing hum filled the air. The alien didn't panic. She gestured toward the ship's controls, motioning for him to follow. Ethan hesitated. "I don't know how to trust," she said, her voice clear this time, low but firm. It was the first word he understood. Her glowing eyes locked onto his. "Trust me." Ethan took a deep breath and nodded. Together, they activated the ship's engines. Light filled the cabin as the spacecraft lifted from the snow, hovering just above the ground. Outside, the hunters lunged toward them, but the alien reached out her hand. A pulse of energy shot forward, forming a shield of blinding light around the ship. The hunters recoiled, screaming in alien voices that chilled Ethan to the bone. The ship shot into the sky, leaving trails of shimmering light behind. Ethan gripped the control panel, still unsure how he had managed to keep the vessel steady. The alien hovered beside him, her eyes glowing brighter with each passing second. He realized that she wasn't just guiding him, she was protecting him. Trusting him to survive this journey alongside her. As the landscape below shrank into a blur of snow and ice, Ethan felt a strange connection forming. He didn't know how long it would last or what awaited them. But he knew one thing: they were now bound together by trust, necessity, and the secrets she carried. She finally spoke again, her words forming in his mind as clear as thought itself. "Sanctuary, safety, only together." Ethan nodded. "Then we go together, no matter what comes." For a moment, the hum of the spacecraft and the glow of her skin filled the cabin with a quiet hope. But beyond the windows, the Empire's reach extended farther than he could imagine. Somewhere out there, enemies were tracking them, waiting for a chance to strike. And somewhere beyond that, the sanctuary she sought might not be as safe as they hoped. Ethan realized something chilling. Helping her meant entering a world far bigger and more dangerous than he had ever known. But turning away was not an option. As the spacecraft soared toward unknown lands, the alien's glowing eyes met his once more. It was not just a look of trust, it was a silent promise. Together, they would face whatever came next. And beyond the stars, a shadow stirred, waiting for the moment to strike. The spacecraft cut through the sky, leaving trails of shimmering light across the snowy expanse below. Ethan still couldn't believe what had just happened. The aliens' powers, the sudden escape, the sheer speed of the ship. But there was no time to dwell. Danger was still out there, and the universe had a way of reminding him that trust was a fragile thing. Hours passed in tense silence. The alien sat beside him, her eyes glowing softly as she monitored the ship's controls. Every now and then, she would touch the glowing device she carried, and the ship would respond as if it were alive, shifting and bending in ways Ethan could barely comprehend. Then, suddenly, a message appeared on the ship's holographic display. It was from Ethan's colony, a voice he recognized immediately. Relief washed over him for a brief moment. Finally, he thought, someone I know. But that relief was short-lived. The message was not what he expected. The familiar voice carried a cold, calculating tone. Ethan, we've tracked your location. The alien is dangerous. Turn her over, or face consequences. Ethan froze. His mind raced. One of his own people was betraying them. No, he whispered. This can't be happening. The alien's glow intensified. She seemed to sense the betrayal without words, her eyes locking onto Ethan with fierce clarity. Then she touched the device, and the ship lurched violently, spinning to avoid an incoming attack from an unknown source. Ethan barely held onto the console. They're coming for us. Faster than before. She thought directly into his mind. Ethan realized the truth. The colony member had given away their position. Whoever was chasing them now had more knowledge, more firepower, and no mercy. The alien's hands moved over the console, releasing pulses of energy that deflected attacks and created shimmering shields around the ship. Ethan could feel the heat and the power, but even this wasn't enough to stop the relentless pursuit. Suddenly, the ship jolted violently. Ethan looked up to see one of the hunters clinging to the hull, trying to break in. He grabbed a lever instinctively, slamming it down, and the alien's energy surged, sending the hunter flying into the air before it crashed into the snow below. Ethan stared, heart pounding. He had never seen anything like her power, but there was no time to celebrate. Another alarm sounded, and Ethan realized they were approaching a canyon filled with jagged ice formations. "Brace yourself!" he shouted. The alien responded immediately, her glow flaring, bending light and energy around the ship. The vessel weaved and twisted through the canyon, narrowly avoiding collisions as if guided by her will alone. Ethan's mind raced. The betrayal stung not just because it was from someone he knew, but because it reminded him that trust was precious and dangerous in this universe. And yet, sitting beside him, the alien's calm determination gave him courage. She was a force of nature, but she needed him. And he needed her. They emerged from the canyon into a vast open sky. For a moment, the chase seemed to pause. Ethan breathed heavily, glancing at her. Her eyes met his, glowing brighter than ever. No words were needed. They understood each other completely. But in that moment of relief, the alien's gaze turned toward a distant point in the horizon. A fleet of ships, larger and more menacing than anything Ethan had seen, was heading straight for them. The betrayal had led them straight into a trap, but they were not defeated yet. Ethan tightened his grip on the controls. "We fight together," he said firmly. The alien nodded, her glow intensifying, radiating energy that made the walls of the ship hum and vibrate. Together, they were no longer just a human and a fugitive alien. They were a team, ready to face the Empire and the traitors alike. As the ships drew closer, Ethan realized one chilling truth: the universe was bigger, darker, and more dangerous than he had ever imagined. And the only way to survive was to trust the alien beside him. Completely. The hunt was far from over. But for the first time, Ethan felt a strange surge of hope. Together, they could fight. Together, they might survive. And somewhere in the distance, the shadow of betrayal lingered, waiting for the moment to strike again. The alien spacecraft soared over frozen mountains, leaving streaks of shimmering light across the night sky. Ethan held tightly to the controls, sweat running down his face, while the alien beside him radiated calm focus, guiding the ship with a fluid grace he could never match. Every flicker of her glowing eyes hinted at determination, and at something deeper, something unspoken. Ahead, the holographic map on her device pulsed faster. The sanctuary was near. Ethan squinted, trying to make sense of the swirling patterns of light that represented terrain he had never imagined. Then, through the clouds and snowstorms, the first glimpse appeared, a valley unlike anything he had ever seen. It glowed soft. Radiant lights shimmered from crystalline structures that rose like towers from the ground. Streams of energy flowed like rivers of molten silver, twisting between alien trees whose leaves sparkled like jewels. The air seemed to hum with life, vibrant and electric, carrying a faint melody that resonated deep within Ethan's chest. The sanctuary was alive, not just a place, but a living world, protected by technology and nature entwined. Ethan felt his breath catch. "It's beautiful," he whispered. The alien glanced at him, her glow reflecting in his eyes. She didn't smile, but her gaze carried relief. Here, she was home, or at least as close as she could get for now. She guided the ship to land on a crystalline platform that seemed suspended above the glowing rivers. The craft touched down with barely a sound, as if the sanctuary itself welcomed them. As they stepped out, Ethan noticed the inhabitants. They were like her tall, graceful, radiant beings, each glowing with patterns unique to themselves. They moved with precision and power, yet there was warmth in their gestures. Some examined the spacecraft, some watched the horizon, but all shared the same alertness that told Ethan the sanctuary was safe. For now, the alien led him deeper into the sanctuary. They passed through corridors of light, bridges spanning streams of glowing energy, and fields where plants pulsed in sync with unseen rhythms. Ethan tried to take it all in, but his thoughts kept returning to the hunters. They had followed them this far once. Could they come again? The alien seemed to sense his worry. She touched his arm lightly. For a moment, Ethan felt her memories again, visions of battles, narrow escapes, and sacrifices her people had made to survive. And then, a brief flash. The Empire's fleet, far larger than he had imagined, watching, waiting, and planning to strike. Ethan's stomach twisted. So even here, they could come? He asked quietly. She nodded, her glow dimming slightly. Sanctuary is safe, but not forever. They can reach us if they try hard enough. We must be ready. Before Ethan could ask more, alarms echoed softly through the sanctuary. The aliens' people had detected something approaching, an energy signature unlike anything in their world. She moved swiftly, guiding him toward a central chamber where the elders awaited. They were taller, older, their patterns of light more complex, radiating authority and wisdom. One elder stepped forward, examining Ethan with glowing eyes that seemed to peer into his very soul. Then, in a voice like a melody carried by the wind, the alien translated telepathically, "He helped me. He trusted me. He must be trusted in return." The elders exchanged silent glances, and then, slowly, they nodded. For the first time, Ethan felt welcomed in this alien world. Yet, even as relief filled him, a sense of tension lingered. The Empire was still out there. The sanctuary was a shield, but one that might not hold forever. Ethan turned to the alien. Her glow was steady, her eyes bright with resolve. "We made it," he said softly. She nodded, but her expression was serious. "For now," she replied. "Tomorrow, the fight may reach us." And as the night stretched over the sanctuary, glowing streams of light dancing across the crystalline valley, Ethan realized the truth. They had found safety. But the war was far from over, somewhere beyond the horizon. The hunters, the Empire, and the shadows of betrayal waited. And soon, they would arrive. The sanctuary glowed softly in the pre-dawn light, a serene contrast to the storm that was approaching. Ethan stood beside the alien, her radiant glow lighting the crystalline corridors. For the first time, he understood the enormity of the fight ahead. The Empire's hunters were coming, not just a few, but a fleet of ships and soldiers, relentless and merciless. There would be no mercy this time. The alien touched her device, and the energy within the sanctuary pulsed in response. Light streamed along pathways, forming shields and barriers, twisting in patterns Ethan had never imagined. He felt the hum of power under his feet, the pulse of a world alive and ready to defend itself. But even with all this, he could see the worry in her glowing eyes. She knew the Empire would not give up easily. The first ships appeared on the horizon, dark silhouettes against the sky, their engines roaring like thunder. Ethan's heart pounded. The alien reached for his hand, a simple gesture, yet it carried immense reassurance. Together, she thought, and he felt her determination fill him with courage. The battle began in a flash. The Empire's ships fired beams of energy that cut through the air, striking shields and causing sparks to scatter. The alien raised her hands, sending waves of radiant energy that deflected the blasts and threw some ships into disarray. Ethan grabbed the control panel, unsure how to operate it fully, but following her lead, his actions complementing hers in an instinctive rhythm. Soldiers descended onto the sanctuary's outer grounds. Ethan and the alien moved together, a blur of human and alien coordination. She unleashed waves of energy, her light bending and twisting through the enemy ranks. And used the ship's weapons, firing carefully, every shot synchronized with her attacks. The hunters were skilled, but they had never faced a team like this. Amidst the chaos, Ethan saw a group of hunters sneaking behind a crystalline ridge, attempting to strike at the sanctuary's core. He shouted to the alien, and with a nod, she leapt toward them. Her glow intensified, her energy forming a protective dome around the sanctuary. Light shot from her fingertips, knocking the soldiers back with precision. Ethan ran alongside her, covering the flanks. His fear replaced with adrenaline and focus. The battle reached its climax when the Empire's flagship appeared. Larger and more formidable than anything Ethan had seen. It descended, unleashing a barrage of energy that threatened to shatter the sanctuary. The alien's glow flared, her power resonating with the sanctuary itself. Ethan could feel the energy coursing through his body as she directed it toward the enemy ship. In a blinding flash, light collided with darkness. The flagship shuddered, sparks flying as the alien pushed her power to its limits. Ethan held on, guided by instinct and trust, and finally, with a deafening roar, the ship was torn apart. The remaining hunters, seeing their command destroyed, retreated into the horizon, vanishing as quickly as they had come. The sanctuary fell silent. Smoke and energy trails lingered in the air, but the alien's glow softened, warm and steady. She turned to Ethan, eyes bright with relief and gratitude. He realized how much they had accomplished together, how much trust had carried them through impossible odds. Ethan looked around at the sanctuary, at the glowing rivers, the crystalline towers, and the aliens' people who had come together to defend their home. "We did it," he whispered. The alien touched his arm lightly, a gesture of connection, of bond forged in fire and light. Then she spoke not in words, but directly into his mind. "Together. We survive. Together. We protect." Ethan nodded, understanding. They had faced the Empire, survived betrayal, and stood side by side against impossible odds. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but for the first time, he felt hope. With her by his side, and the sanctuary as their shield, they could face whatever came next. As dawn broke, the crystalline valley shimmered in new light. reflecting the promise of survival, trust, and courage. And somewhere in the distant stars, a new journey awaited when they would face together.